Yeah, I thought it was great, and we go in with a power play opportunity, and we don't score, but it was a heck of a save by Bennington, generate some momentum, and I just like that we didn't start cheating the game. The structure was there once we settled into the game, and then really limited their chances, didn't give up a whole lot, and I think that's a good blueprint for success of staying above their speed, controlling the tempo and playing fast.
To that point, what did you feel that your team did to lock in the defensive structure that you had that held them to just 2 shots in that period?
Well, I think some of it was reads on the forecheck, some of it was reads in the neutral zone, and then, like I said, we started playing a little faster. I think, early in the game, you've got nerves, the building's buzzing, guys are chasing hits, and it's just the execution wasn't necessarily there that we come to expect. So, I thought once we settled in, the reads got sharp, the tracking was really good, our D's gap was great. Helly had some good handles that didn't allow them to get a forecheck, and I thought we did a real good job of starting to sustain some ozone time, and that was a heck of a play by Scheif and Al going to the dirty area to get us back in the game, and kind of the building erupted, and I feel like we seized that momentum, and what a play on that fourth goal.
Speaking of hits, how long did it take for their strategy to become apparent?
I think it feels like every year, game one or in each series, a bit of a bloodbath. Teams are both trying to assert their dominance, and everyone's amped up. I think our style of game is we want to be a fast forechecking team, heavy, hard to play against, but we don't need to chase hits, and I think anytime a team's chasing hits, you can get them out of position, and you move the puck quick, you communicate that a guy's coming, you can kind of avoid those, and they played hard. They did a real good job of making it tough to get to the net, and it was a real tight game, and it was nice to come out on top of that.
What were testing you think? All that physical play, that was the plan?
I think they're a great forechecking team. I think that's part of their MO. They attack off the rush, they hit that second wave, but they try and turn over pucks on the forecheck, and they got some real physical guys up front, and I think just trying to bring everyone into the fight. So I'm not sure if it was necessarily their game plan or not, but I thought we did a pretty good job of matching it, mitigating it, and kind of settling into our style.
Fair to say that what happened there in the third period with those extra scrums kind of a tone setter, or just maybe those game one kind of nerves?
Last one, guys.
I think it's just emotion, or competitiveness. There's some big hits both sides. A little extracurriculars. It was nice to see all of our guys standing up for each other, and that's what we do as a team. No one's going to back down from anyone, and we're going to stick together, and till the final buzzer. So I think that's just the emotion of the game. I wouldn't read too much into that one.
Team effort, obviously, but what's made Mark and Kyle so dynamic?
Well, the way they see the game and they read off each other. KC's got such a deceptive release. He gets his shot off in traffic. He's able to get separation. When it seems like there's not a lot of space, and then Scheif's so cerebral that he's able to buy time. And you look at that play where they're able to, you just find the seam, and it was similar to where KC hit the one on the power play that Binnington got across on. This one he didn't miss, and but I think they read off each other so well. They're so dynamic together, and then their spacing's incredible. They don't crowd each other in the O-zone, but they always seem to have that tight support whenever they need an out, and it was great to see them rewarded. I thought they had a heck of a game one.
Scheifele became the Jets Thrashers all-time points leader in the playoffs. I mean, how much does tonight's performance just emphasize his value to the team?
Yeah, I think there's been a long list of things that kind of shows what type of player he is in the playoffs. I look at 2017, 2018, and kind of the run that he had, and really carried the mail offensively with the number of goals he scored in that year. But every year he seems to work on some new skills, come back an even better player than he was before. And it's hard or difficult to kind of understand that someone in their 30s is continuing to get better. They're not kind of plateauing, but he puts in the work. He's rewarded for it, and I thought tonight was a perfect example of our stars being our stars.
Thank you, Adam.
To come into that third period down a goal but come out with the win the way that you did, what does that say about your ability to get it done now?
Yeah, I think that's what you look for. That's playoff hockey. You got to play right to the last minute and right to the last second. And, it was fun. The guys are buzzing out there. I didn't get a whole lot of action in the third, but it was really fun to watch and be a part of. And it's there's a lot more.
What did they do, to help you just only face those 2 shots in the third as they did?
I thought we just continued with our details, continued putting the pressure on, getting the puck deep, and not turning it over in the right areas. And when we're holding the puck the whole time, it makes it like that.
Connor, what did you see on the Cairo breakaway?
He kind of drove wide. He had a couple options, but he kind of looked like he was trying to use his speed, try to get around me. And in that moment, I was just kind of trying to smother him because he got a little tight to me and stuck to me.
What's the mindset on a play like that? You guys are down 1, and obviously 2 becomes an even bigger hole to climb out of. And in retrospect, that was a huge save at the moment, right?
Yeah, in one of those types of games, there's not a whole lot of action. There's not a whole lot of feel. You just know you're going to have to make at least one big save, and that's going to be the difference maker. And I thought that was it. That being said, I felt good all night. I was just waiting to get some action, and I thought we were controlling the play pretty well there. So. We played great, and now we got to move on to the next one and continue to do it.
You got chippy there at the end. Jordan Bennington started skating up to the blue line a bit. Did you make eye contact with him at all for something, or no? Didn't see it.
A goalie fight in playoffs would be dumb. It'd just be dumb.
Connor, speaking of difference makers, what makes Kyle and Mark so dynamic together?
They're just 2 elite players that see the game so well. There's guys with a ton of skill, and then there's guys that are smart, and they kind of have both. And when you put them together, they use both, and that's what makes them so elite together. And then you throw, really anyone you want on there, but AI is doing a phenomenal job of just getting pucks, great stick play, and driving the net. And when G's on there, and he adds a whole nother dynamic to that line. So they're just deadly and fun to watch.
Connor, was that a tough first period for everyone to play in? Like that, you get the sort of chaos of the crowd, and it seemed like the puck was bouncing all kinds of weird ways. You guys get that strange one where you score off the deflected in past Bennington. Is that a tough game, and then it takes a while for everyone just to kind of settle in?
I think the first game of playoffs is always kind of like that. There's so much adrenaline. Who knows who slept last night, honestly, because you look forward to this one all season long. So I think our crowd just was phenomenal and brought it tonight. Really helped us get the momentum when we needed it. And when you're in a game like that, you just use it, you feed off of it, and you continue shift after shift and continue with your game.
And just to that point, you've heard MVP chants at times. I don't think they've ever been as loud as they were kind of pregame today. Does that give you an extra, not that you probably need to get an extra boost for a game like this, but...
Yeah, that was crazy. That's one of those things I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. That was really cool. That gave me a little boost and a little excitement into the game, and I'm happy we pulled this one out, and now we move forward.
The point you were making before, Adam thought that the team was maybe a little tight in front of the crowd, and how could it not be with them being how they're? How did your team find a way to use that, rather than let it overwhelm you as the game went on?
I think I liked a lot of our game. I think maybe 1 or 2 breakdowns and a lucky bounce here and there, and that got them their 3 goals. That being said, we continued with our game. We never panicked, and we showed our details, and they prevailed, and that's what we've been doing all year long. And I don't expect us to change anything.
Were you kind of just hoping that the game could go at 5-on-5 for a little while there? Because it seemed when it did, you were more or less in control of it.
Yeah, I think just as the game progresses, as a goalie, you just kind of go with the punches, and whatever happens, you just make the best of it. That being said, as a team, I think we're ready for any moment. And yeah, some 5-on-5 play would be nice, maybe a power play, and that's where it's fun. That's where the crowd gets into it.
Thank you.
had a great time there, but just maybe take us through the thought process when you're getting such great looks and goaltender seems to, at least early in the game, have your number.
Yeah, you just got to stick with it. Stay positive, knowing that you're doing the right things, getting the chances, and a lot of plays like those cross ice plays, or even the one Fetz hit me on the power play. Usually, I'm trying to get that off as quick as possible. A lot of holes in the goaltenders if you can, and it was obviously a great play by Scheif, and just try to get off quick.
Mark, that great play puts you alone on top of the franchise playoff all-time scoring list, passing your good friend Blake Wheeler. Just what does it mean to hold that record and to do it in such a dramatic way?
Yeah, it's obviously really cool. Obviously it's cool. To do it in front of the fans tonight was pretty special. That was a fun game to be a part of. Had a fun time.
Clearly, at some point, your team locked in your defensive game, but your line specifically seemed to lock in that offensive zone, long possession, churning, kind of grinding them down style of game. What did you guys think that you did to get to that?
I thought, the first period it was I don't know what it was, but kind of feeling out for both teams, and I really thought in the second period we got to our game, like you said. That's Winnipeg Jet hockey, where you're rolling around the O zone, getting possession, early changes, getting the next line out there, and keep doing it, hemming teams in. And the rush really wasn't there. I thought they did a great job of their F3. Obviously we talked about that, and they didn't want to give anything up. So just getting to a neutral zone, being simple, the play's there. If not, make those deep turn and get it back on the forecheck.
Kyle, when you're waiting for the pass from Mark, do you, as he has the puck there, having played with him for so long, kind of have an idea of what he's thinking, where he's going to be looking to pass, like just the chemistry between you two?
I'd like to think so. Yeah.
And Mark, could you make that pass to Kyle with your eyes closed? It seems like you always know where he is.
He's absolutely fantastic. He's a real pleasure to play with. I've said it many times. I'm lucky to have spent as much time with him as I have, and tonight was another fun night playing with him.
Ken, then Marat.
Kyle, what's Al brought to that line?
Yeah, you guys seen it right from day one, and obviously last year too. We played with him, and he can do it all. He's he's such a big asset for our team, and he comes into our line and doesn't change a thing. Plays the same exact way. Wins a ton of battles. I think he's one of the best defenders on our team. He back checks really hard. Great stick. Seems like he's knocking the puck down every chance he can get, and he's got a knack around the net, and you see that with the past 20 games or however long he's been with us, and it translates to playoff hockey.
Very quickly, how would you describe the save Connor makes on Kyrou at the point of the game and what it meant in the overall end result? Yeah,
big save in a big time. That's Helly for us. He's the backbone of this team, and that was a tremendous save, and obviously had a big point in the game, so kept us in it, and played awesome tonight.
Marat.
Kyle, this almost reminded me of that April Blues game here in the regular season where you guys just stuck with it, and you eventually found a way. What does it say, I guess, about your group and the confidence that you have that when you do that and you never cheat the game and you always do it, like there's going to be a moment for you?
Yeah. We talked about it between periods. That's got to be our game no matter what. It may not bounce our way that night, but over a 7-game series, we like our odds, and we've kind of shown it throughout the regular season. When we're playing that way, it's tough to play against, and we're able to generate offense as well and score.
And then Mark, you've said this already, and in a lot of different ways over your career, but when you're making a pass to Kyle and you know that you don't need to get him too many before he's going to score, like, can you put into words the confidence it gives you as a playmaker just knowing that he's on the other end of it?
Oh, it's amazing. It's all I want to do is put the puck in his hands, and he does some fantastic things. Like I said before, I'm lucky to play with him. He's absolutely fantastic. He shoots the puck fantastic. He does so many little things fantastic, and like I said a million times, he's amazing to play with.
Thank you.
Jakes.
Scott, it was a game that you guys really had to stay tenacious in, going down in the third period, down by a goal, don't score on the immediate power play that you get, and yet you found a way, which sounds like something we've asked you about during the regular season too. How important was it to start game one that way?
Yeah, thought the first period we looked real nervous. Just kind of trying to find our way, kept going, and built it up in the second, but then, stuck with it and really played well in the third. But, we had talked about as a group that, you don't know how long these games are going to last. They could, go be 3 periods, or they could go into overtime. You have to stay in the moment. And I thought we did a really good job of, that first period it was a little bit wacky. And we were a little bit sloppy, and then all of a sudden, the second period, we started to do some things that we had talked about, got some zone time, started to create chances, and then it kind of built towards that third, and it was a real good third period.
Did you sort of get the sense on the bench that, Kyle Connor was finding his space and that this was going to happen in time, or did that third period by them kind of come out of just their star power, I guess?
Well, I mean, it's one thing about, the best players or the top players, especially offensive guys, they have a knack for finding holes, for finding ice. I thought KC had a lot of puck possession in the second period. He didn't get that shot off a few times, and just felt in the third he really got in his head that he was going to fire pucks. Bennington made a heck of a stop on the one, but that's one thing about KC. He'll continue to shoot pucks and continue to grind to find those holes.
Scott, how do you describe the way that line embraced the matchup with Thomas as well?
Yeah, they've had it a couple times this year already, so it wasn't like they hadn't had it before. But again, that's a real good line in the St. Louis side as well, and real dangerous. But that's part of kind of what we have talked about all year long about no matter who you are, there's a way to play without the puck, and the buy-in that we've gotten from our top guys has obviously helped us have success defensively. And that was a good match. They had some looks. That line had some looks, obviously, and but that's what it's going to be. They're going to have to do it. Could be possibly 7 more or 6 more times. So, when you go head-to-head against top players, you have to be at your best.
And then too, playoffs can also be about unsung heroes. How do you describe the way your fourth line was able to contribute for you today? Yeah,
that was a big goal. Obviously, kind of really got the crowd into it. Not that they needed to get any louder, but it's going to be like it has been all year long. That it's all 4 lines, it's all of our D contributing. That we roll well when everybody is a part of it, and that's kind of what we got tonight.
That goal from Kyle and Mark, the fourth goal, it happened after prolonged cycle and throughout a game that was very tight checking, but Scheifele finds the seam. Was that another instance of 2 of your best players finding a way to adapt and evolving through the course of a game?
Yeah, we caught him on an icing, so that helped. And then obviously the big face-off win. It wasn't a clean win, but I think it was KC come off the wall to help get a piece of that. So he starts there, and then obviously had a face-off play on, and they're not always they don't always get away with them, and it was a really good. Just the whole sequence of it was executed perfect.
His final numbers maybe aren't what we usually see from Connor Hellebuck, but that save off Kyrou kind of late in the second and keeps it a 1-goal game. In hindsight, I guess, how big was that in your eyes?
Yeah, well, it obviously, like you mentioned, it kept it at 1 goal. It was a big moment, just like Bennington's save. That was big. We felt that was maybe the one that got us back into it. But that's what good goaltenders do. Great goaltenders do. They have one, we have one, and I think at the end of the day, just ask our guy to make one more big save than their guy, and hopefully we come out on the right end of it.
In that first period, you mentioned maybe you guys were nervous. Obviously, a lot of momentum swings and lots of penalties. They came out very physical. Was there anything about that first period that surprised you?
I'm just only speaking about our team. I just thought we were a little bit sloppy. We were a little bit hesitant at times. We didn't execute very well, and I think that was the first game. There's a lot of pressure, and but then we got up and we calmed down and got back to doing what we do.
Talking about the pressure and the nerves, Adam said that he felt that out there. the Whiteout traditionally the last number of years has not been an easy place to get results, and I'm wondering if what you see tonight, the way your team reacts to that nervousness, is if you're seeing growth in this group, that is something they can lock in and take forward.
Well, we'll talk about it before game 2, that we need to come out and get going right off the bat. But sometimes that crowd, it's so loud, and they also, you can feel it. You can hear the oohs and ahs when we miss, or the something if there's a bad call or if there's a missed call. It's amazing how that is so loud and it flows. And then if they got up on the lead in our whole crowd, everybody got a little bit quiet, but then they got themselves going again. So it is. There's an ebb and flow coming from from the fans, and but we've been through it, and we've obviously had lots of sellouts here for especially the last part of the year, and hopefully that next game, period number 1, we're up and running right away.
Okay, guys.
Thank you. Thanks.